What's going on, everybody? I am so excited to bring you this inaugural episode of DadCast, a gaming show slash podcast dedicated to the gaming fathers out there. I'm Josiah LeRoy. With me, my co-host, my new friend, Tim Talbot. Tim, thanks so much for taking this journey with me. How are you doing today?
Good. I've been looking forward to this. What did we think of this? What, month and a half ago almost now?
Yeah, we kind of got to talking. Tim and I met through a mutual friend, and then got to know each other a little bit through our mutual love of video games, and
Yep.
through conversation, we both realized we had young children each, and decided, hey, this would probably be a good idea to have. Almost like a group therapy in a way, but this nice outlet
Yeah.
to talk about what it's like to be a gaming dad, because gaming really requires a lot of attention. Obviously, being a dad requires a lot of attention, so it's really tough to find the mix on those. So
Yes.
as I was kind of thinking about this first episode here, I was thinking about just a few basic things, and I'm thinking to myself, it requires a lot of coffee, which I've got here. And we're recording this at 10 o'clock at night, but Tim and I
Yep.
both realize that we can drink coffee whenever. It
Yep.
requires
Pretty much.
a little bit of beer, which I believe we've got right there. See, we're so in sync. It's awesome. And, of course, it requires, obviously it goes without saying, but a lot of love for your
Little
kids.
thing.
And just a little bit. Also for, of course, the craft of gaming. So
Yeah.
this is a rare show for the Geekiverse in that this is not news-based. This is not so much keeping up on what's going on with the times. This is more of a lifestyle show. We're here just to chat, have fun. We're going to do this monthly to start and see where it goes, but you'll be able to watch it at youtube.com/the Geekiverse, as well as listen to it on all of our major streaming podcast outlets. So, Tim, why don't you give a little bit of a background on maybe your love of gaming, who you've got there at home, and what your life looks like nowadays.
It's basically asking my origin story. So
Y-
this is the part where it's usually the first movie, right, that this is about. So,
yes,
but
yes.
okay. So the first part of my life, essentially. Oh man, where do I start? So I don't know how about you were for as a kid, but you know, I know I meant to mention too. So the big thing I think with this too, this first episode, is probably geared more towards the newer dads, the dads that are maybe becoming a father and are kind of curious of, hey, I'm going to be a dad and pretty shortly here, or I just want to have someone to relate with the experiences, because we're probably going to go over a lot of stuff of how it was adjusting. Because I know for me it was a big adjustment, but growing up, I actually grew up in Attica, so we grew up in the country, and I grew up with video games. I have a stepdad that basically is my dad now. I treat him like my dad, and he kind of introduced me to a lot of the newer games back in the day. It was Twisted Metal was one of the more memorable games that I have back then.
Dude, I am such a Twisted Metal guy. Oh man, I didn't know that. Okay,
Yeah,
we'll
love
have to
Twisted
talk
Metal.
about that.
If you played it like nowadays, it's horrible, very bad. So, but growing up, that was like one of my big things. Remember, I used to go to my new stepdads at the time and play that. And remember, as a small kid, my brother got to go on a. This is younger than Twisted Metal. My brother got to go on a camping trip, and I was too young to go. So my mother actually let me open up his birthday gift. It was a Nintendo, I think, or a Super Nintendo. I actually played his gift while he was gone, and we put it back in the box. And it was a lot of fun. So I grew up with. Remember back in the day, it was Alien. You guys just did that review on the MCU, the Hulk.
hmm
And thinking about that back then, I actually played a game on the Super Nintendo called The Hulk. Great game, and that's what I thought of when I thought of the Hulk when you guys were doing the review. But growing up, it was just a big part of my life, and kind of to go back when I was in high school, I kind of was really conflicted on what I liked, what I didn't like. I have a big love for music. And that when I was growing up, I would go to concerts and shows, and that was where I would kind of lean towards. And I'd grown up in a smaller school. There was less of a crowd of people who enjoyed what I enjoyed. So it was kind of like a closet thing. I would go home and do my homework. I'd play video games all the time, and I'd still find time to hang out with my friend. And I grew up in Attica, so we didn't always make the smartest decisions sometimes. But I always had a passion for gaming, and it was strictly single player, co-op, couch co-op, because I didn't have internet. We grew up in the boonies, so I don't know how different that is from you, but I didn't really have internet until I was in college. So we had internet, it just wasn't good enough to play any video games on. So I'm a big old school guy where if I play, what's a good example? I played Tomb Raider, for example. Getting stuck somewhere when I was a kid was extremely difficult because there's no Google. Like I didn't have internet to look stuff up. You'd have to get the magazines back in the day that would have like guides on games and games to look out for. That was big for me. So growing up, it was always a big piece of my life. And when I met my wife, it was kind of one of those things where I started to kind of be more comfortable with what I really enjoyed. I didn't feel like I had to try to be someone that I didn't want to be. As weird as that sounds, I feel like you always are kind of like that in high school. You try to fit in.
Of
And
course.
when I kind of got out of high school, it was like one of those things where like, hey, I can work a job, I can have friends and still do all the cool stuff, but I can still like playing video games and like I like anime, like it's a big thing of mine that I enjoy. Some stuff. We're talking about that a little bit, but I can do all that stuff and still find time to do those things. And when I met my wife, Jamie, she, kind of was one of those things that kind of kept me grounded and was okay with all the weird stuff that I like. I'm a geek down deep down, like all of us. And that's why I was so excited to come into this, is because it's nice to have friends that like similar things that you do, in a sense that you can talk about it. And, if I have a really good game that I'm playing, like Ori, I can be like, oh my God, it was such a great game. And we can go back and forth about it. Or Final Fantasy. It's just, it's one of those things that you really enjoy. But that's kind of the prior. But I'll kind of cut there. I want to hear about your background a little bit. I know you probably have a different backstory than I do a little bit. So
Yeah, I it's funny you mentioned with having friends who geek out with you or like the same things, and I think that's been a big part of the mantra of the Geekiverse. This is a big month for us. We celebrate 6 years of doing this, and it's people being passionate about various things and sharing in that passion and learning about new ones and why people love what they love. So that this is the place for all of that. For me, growing up, in terms of gaming, Twisted Metal was one of my first obsessions, which is funny that you say that. My best friend lived next door for one summer. We would have been 8 or 9, and Twisted Metal 2 was the one. We went through and played it like there was no tomorrow. Our moms got on us all the time for playing inside when it was nice outdoors, and that's kind of how it was. So, flash forward a little bit to high school, and that's when I would say my gaming took maybe a new level when it came to how much I loved it. I had always been somewhat of a casual gamer, maybe that guy who plays NHL or Madden every year. I would play a Star Wars game here or there because Star Wars is my number one fandom. But really, I started branching out a little bit. It was playing Halo. It was those LAN parties with friends.
Yep.
That was huge. Halo 3 came out while I was in high school, and actually I think 2 did as well. So that was always the thing, the talk of the town, if you will. And then we get to college, and a game like Batman Arkham Asylum comes out, one of my favorite games of all time, and that took me to a new level, and I knew I wanted to just try every game out there that I could get my hands on. So going there, it's funny, we're obviously this is going to be a dad themed podcast, and Tim's right, we're going to be kind of featuring a discussion on primarily geared towards newer dads. But my dad played quite a bit of games with me. We on the Xbox 360, we played Halo 3 most nights, deep into the night, to the point where we're staying up during my college days 2 or 3 in the morning, no problem. He's right there with me, and he's got to get up for work the next morning. But we would always play. A few years later, Call of Duty Black Ops 2 comes out, and that became an obsession with ours. My first job out of college, I worked 4 to midnight, which was lovely.
Impressive.
So he would wait or take a nap, and we'd play as soon as I got out, play till 2 or 3 in the morning again. So a lot of that time I spent with him are some of my more fond gaming memories. And, I hope to do that one day with my daughter, and if we have any other kids. But that's kind of, I guess, my story in a nutshell for where my love of gaming stems from, and just being a dad-themed podcast, some of the better memories I had with him. But Tim, maybe shifting back here, fast forward to, I believe, 2.5 years ago.
Yep.
You have a child. what changes? What does your schedule look like on a before and after basis with?
I don't want to scare anyone here, but everything. I mean, everything changes. It's so I think for the first 9 months, I mean, luckily I have a big love for retro gaming. It's kind of always, I think I've mentioned to you I think maybe like in a post or something when I was a kid, high school, I got my first laptop and bought it with my own money because that's how my family kind of was. It's, you want to buy something, you want to do something, you go get a job and you work for it. So when I was, 14, I got my first job at Darien Lake, and that's how I afforded to do all the extra things I wanted to do. And I actually went out and bought a laptop and would drive to the local church, take their internet, and then download all the stuff that I want. I download emulators and games and stuff like that and play old school games. I'll kind of explain how this all wraps in. So when I first found out my wife was pregnant, obviously over the moon. I was so happy. It's, I don't know how you were, but being a dad's always been one of those things where it's like, that's for me. Like, that's one job that I want to be able to do. And you know what? I'm going to do it well. I'm going to be a great dad. And I hope to think that I am. Sometimes we all have moments where it's like, oh, you go crazy. But first 9 months was a lot of fun. You get to kind of see how everything's kind of going with we actually have a Doppler. So little backstory here. So I actually have a 2.5-year-old, but expecting another one, a little girl. So a little boy's name's Oliver and a little girl coming on the way towards the end of the year here. So it's exciting, but
Very exciting.
obviously different this time around than it was the first time around. But so the first time around, 9 months, we have a little sonogram thing. What is it? Checks the heartbeat. I don't know what it's called, but I'm gaming, not doctor stuff. So, but so we would always listen to the heartbeat, which was really cool. So as we got closer and closer, one of those big things I got is on the iPad. You know how they released all those Final Fantasy games for mobile or for like the mobile games. I've played through Final Fantasy 9 countless times. I'm a big Final Fantasy guy, and I haven't played that one in so long. You've never played a Final Fantasy, so you couldn't relate. But
No,
they're long games, which is a lot of fun. So when my wife was pregnant, I actually downloaded it on the iPad, and towards the time when she became pregnant, my wife was actually in labor for I think over 24 hours, so she's in labor for a while.
gosh.
So when we got home, kind of how life adjusted, I was doing iPad gaming for a while. It really wasn't. I wasn't on a good enough sleep schedule to be able to do much of anything else. I kind of would hold the baby as he slept, and I'd have the iPad in the other hand, playing Final Fantasy 9, and that was my go-to for a little while there. And there was ways to make it work, but I'm sure you're gonna probably agree with me. It's one of those things where maybe let's say I go to sit down and play a game. It doesn't always work like that. Maybe he's been sleeping for an hour and he wakes up, and then next thing you know, I got to go take care of the baby or go help or do something, which was different because right before we had the baby, I played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege. Are you big into shooters, Joe?
Yeah.
No?
Oh yeah.
Okay. I played a lot of Rainbow Six Siege, and that is not a game you can just pause and walk away from.
Mm-mm.
So it was an adjustment. So I actually stopped playing a lot of the games that required me to not be able to leave when I wanted to leave, because as you know, a newborn baby can sleep 30 minutes, they can sleep an hour, they can sleep 2 hours, they can sleep 5 hours. You have no idea. And making plans around that was just too difficult because there's no, wait, hold a second, I got to finish my game. It just doesn't work that way. So, but yeah, I would say that was how it was for the first, I would say 6 to 7 months before he was mobile. But how was your experience when you guys found out and all that stuff after that? So,
same boat. It is something that I always knew, even from a relatively young age, that was, I always wanted to be a father. My wife and I are we were high school sweethearts, same boat. She, always wanted to be a mother, and we knew kind of when the time was right. We were blessed enough to be able to become pregnant, and the best news you could ever hope to get. It was simply beautiful.
Wait, really quick, it's a little side story because you mentioned that. It actually took us almost 8 months when we first started trying to actually, for the dads out there who can't, it's stressful. It was one of those things where you start to think, what's wrong with me? What's wrong with, you start to get nervous.
It weighs on you.
Everyone's different. Yeah. The next baby, it was the first month. So it's,
Right.
I don't know how to explain that one, but continue on. I just want to say that because I thought that was important to.
Yeah, honestly, if you are listening to this, maybe you don't have any kids, or maybe you're trying whatever it may be. uh, it can definitely weigh on you. We definitely we had a few months before we were able to get there, and just when I thought that we weren't, that's when it happened, and
Yeah, same here.
it's kind of funny how it works. But uh, as a side to that, my parents, I this was well public, so I know they won't mind me sharing this, but it was 13 years. Uh, they had the toughest time, bad luck all over the place, and eventually, I always tell them it was worth the wait. I don't know if they agree.
Yeah.
I'm just kidding, but yeah. So you have patience with that. It's easier said than done, but don't let that weigh on your mind too much if you're in
Be
that
positive.
boat. So we had our baby girl named Daisy, and
I
the
love the name.
oh, thank you very much. I appreciate that. Everyone always thinks that we named her after Daisy Ridley because of my love of Star Wars, and that is not true. It's not. I'd love to say it is, but we
Yeah.
simply just
Sure.
like the name Daisy. It's not a family name. We kind of picked it out of the blue. um, and the first 2 weeks, so I was off of work for 2 weeks, able to stay home. I was lucky enough for that. We same boat. You don't know how long the baby's sleeping. Patterns all over the place. There really is no pattern, and I it was honestly almost a perfect time for Spider-Man PS4 to come out. So me being a huge Marvel guy, a huge superhero video game guy, it was a perfect storm, and I was able to really chop down a lot of that game in that time. I know Rashawn will appreciate this, but that is a game that I 100%ed. I did not
And
platinum.
so I've never played it yet. It's on my list.
Yes,
I love Marvel games and I grew up playing it and I have not yet played it yet. I need to.
I
It's
can't recommend it enough. I adored it. It's probably on my top 10 all time list. I don't know if that's because
I
of
got
my bias towards Marvel, but it's up there.
it, but
Yeah.
that's supposed to be a great game. I'm really excited to play it. That and Star Wars are the two they go back and forth sometimes. So
Yes. I'm happy you finally took the dive into Jedi Fallen Order. I actually booted that up uh, this week. You probably inspired me to do so, but that and mixed in with the free update. So the last time I played it was December 22nd. It said on my save, and I'm 95% of the way through. So I'm very close to 100%ing this thing. I just have one planet to go to get all my my extra features. But man, what a world!
yep,
Um,
phenomenal game. So,
yeah, it's amazing. So in short, my gaming pattern, it kind of worked out well. I at the time, Spider-Man is a game you can pause. It's a single player game. You can come back to it no problem. Daisy would sleep when she sleeps, and once we got maybe past those 2 weeks, we had a little bit of a groove where she'd really get in a pattern, be up for a little bit, and go down for anywhere maybe 2 to 3 hours, which is great because nowadays she does not sleep at all. And that was it. That was great. I'd get up, no problem, whatever her and my wife needed, and then it was back to the PS4 or Xbox One. And now, fast forward to now, my parents always laugh because they say this is how I was, but she does not sleep. She's high energy. She's always looking for that next thing, which is a little bit how I am. And you're in the same boat, I imagine. We both love our coffee, and she gets up 7 in the morning. She takes one nap during the day. We're lucky if we're able to get more than an hour and a half, and we try to get her down to bed at 8 o'clock, but usually it ends up being closer to 9:30, and that is when my day truly begins when it comes to gaming, or as we're recording this now here late at night. So my advice there is kind of play what you can when you can do it, and take what you're given. That's kind of it. I imagine you're maybe in the same boat. You play what you can when you can.
Yeah, so a little bit different than you. So right after we had our son, I can't tell you what. I can't go into too much detail because my wife will probably kill me. So if I die, that's because I told something I shouldn't have told on the recording. But we had a lot of post issues that didn't quite go as we had planned, and kind of required me to take more of a front role. So obviously, being self-employed, I didn't have the ability to get time off. Me not working meant us not making money. So I had to keep working and do what I could to keep busy with work. But with what was going on, it required me to be a little more involved as far as helping take care of the baby more so than we wanted to be a little more equal. And it was difficult because she was going through a lot of stuff at the time, and it was my job as a father and a husband to step up and do what I could to contribute. And funny story, as you know, I'm sure Joel will agree, we probably, how much sleep do you think you get? What time do you usually go to bed, do you think? Oh, I might have lost you.
Tonight, can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you.
Okay. Tonight will be one of those late nights. I kind of trade off. So I'm going to be working on this, and then I'm watching Iron Man 2 so we can record the next part in our MCU series. I would say maybe 1 or 2 o'clock is a good solid night for me. And then if I can do at least once or twice a week, which is awesome, really go to sleep when my daughter goes to sleep, or even just maybe 10 o'clock, I'm usually pretty okay. I got to find the balance. So I trade a really late night for some early nights when possible.
Yeah, that's kind of how I was. But back then I was so tired from not sleeping that one time we had our son in the bed. He was, feeding, and I was like, okay, he's done. It was like 2 or 3 in the morning. She's like, oh, he's all done eating. We have 2 65-pound dogs. We have both pointer mixes. So I'm thinking to myself, okay, just going to scoop up Oliver, put him back. At the back of the time, we used the rock and play. My son got sick early, which now it's like a big no-no, and we got rid of it, and it's in the garbage now. But so in my head, I'm scooping up my son, and I want to put him in the crib, and my wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, why are you picking up the dog? So I was so tired that I actually tried to pick up our 65-pound dog and didn't realize it, and tried to put her in my son's rock and play. So. Now, Joe, is your camera working? Or is it just me?
No, my camera's not working either. We're frozen, but audio's coming through still pretty good.
Yeah, it was one of those things where it was kind of crazy. But
yeah, I'd say so. It takes an adjustment, even if you are someone who is not used to getting a lot of sleep, whether that's by choice or not. It's a different kind of sleep because, again, that pattern goes out the window. Yep. You're up every few hours. For us, we had a relatively healthy time after Daisy was born for both Daisy and Mom. And we would, anytime Daisy got up, it was a rule of thumb for me, not my wife's asking, that I'd get up with her. I kind of felt like, hey, we're doing this together. I've got the easy part. You just went through hell. Lauren's, by the way, labor was 21 hours. So to hear that your wife was, over 24, my goodness, that's unbelievable.
God bless them. Can't imagine. So.
I can't. I remember. So we've always talked about having multiple kids. When Daisy was born in the hospital, I remember right away saying to Lauren, "Hey, if we're done now, that's totally fine. You tell me, and we're good to go." And she goes, "That was the worst thing ever, but we're gonna do it again." So
I was like, "Talk to me in a year." So it was yeah, traumatizing to say the least. So did you we won't go into too much. Did you help, or did you
Yeah, I did.
I tried not to. She was like, "Oh, grab a leg." I'm like, "Oh, what?"
I didn't know what to expect at all. You always hear stories, and everyone's story is different. But we had the sweetest nurse in the world. So we live in Western New York, and we delivered at Sisters Hospital, it's called. And I swear this woman was straight from heaven. She was just absolutely wonderful for my wife. Whatever, she comforted her better than I ever could in that moment. She just needed that kind of sweet touch. And we had a really, really nice doctor who obviously Lauren had worked with all the way up to and through birth. And it was the two of them. And the time was there, and we couldn't have been more excited because it meant, hey, the end of the road is coming, first of all. But second of all, it was, hey, Josiah, grab her left leg, and you're going to help us go through this. Which I was like, fine, great, whatever you need me to be. But I didn't know that was going to happen. So
me either. My wife's like, "Oh, pull up a chair, come sit next to my face." I'm like, "Okay." And she's like, the doctor, she's amazing. And she's like, what are you doing? Move the chair. Like, grab a leg. I'm like, what? I was not planning on helping. So, and
Yeah.
it's like, I explained almost like a car crash. Like, I'm so glad I watched it, but I tried not to. Like, it's a car crash. You cannot not look. And yeah, it was, I'll kind of stop there, but
Yeah.
it was very, I'm glad we did it. And so I'm happy. So we got a beautiful son and she's happy. And, but we actually, so being the nurse, we actually got an epidural and when we were leaving the hospital, she had bad headaches. And the day we got home, she actually had to go back. It was either the next day, maybe. She actually had a headache from the epidural where what happened is, I guess, like the spinal fluid or the blood or something went to the back of her neck and it caused her to have a headache. And she had to get like, I think they take her blood out of her back or something and put it in her neck to like stop the headache. It was super crazy.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, so it was very crazy. But now, I mean, it's, being a dad is kind of fast forwarding past that first year where they're more like, I don't want to say potato, but I guess that's kind of how I compare it. It's, they're active in their own way, where them being active now, it's a different kind of active. My son likes American Ninja Warrior Jr. It's his new show that he likes, and he's jumping off the furniture and chasing the dogs around the house. And it's naps, like you said, are difficult because he's just so high energy that it's like I got to tell him it's time for a nap after he just finished running a marathon around the house, and it's like he's still ready to go. And we, like, similar to you, it's, hey, we try to get a nap in. Hopefully he naps. Maybe get a couple hours out of him would be great. Some days he won't nap, and then he's an absolute psychopath at 6, 7 o'clock at night. But then you get done earlier. And I don't know how you are, but it's always the trying to find the balance between work, spending time with the family, and then finding time to play video games or do something. Because I know as a dad, I'm sure you'll agree, you need your personal time sometimes too. Just like my wife needs her personal time to watch. She likes big TV person, so she likes to watch her TV, and everyone kind of needs their own personal time, and it's tough to juggle it all sometimes. And I don't know if there's any other dads out there that feel the same way, but it's very rewarding, but can be stressful and it can be a lot. And it's trying to find the right balance of, hey, you know what, my son just went to bed. It's not time for me to go play video games right now. Maybe my wife wants to watch a TV show, or we're going to watch a movie together, or, still making sure you put the time in as a husband, opposed to just saying, hey, you know what, son's in bed, I'm heading downstairs, I have to play in the basement because I'm in the kitchen now, probably being too loud. So, but yeah, it's an adjustment for sure.
It is, and that balance is super critical. And what's difficult is at times you even have to realize, hey, I'm not going to get that game time in today. It's just not happening. It falls down the priority list. And, that was me maybe the 2 days ago. It wasn't going to happen. The nap, like you said with Oliver, it wasn't there. And, she ended up being a little bit difficult just from not having that rest, and it was not great. So it was like, all right, it's not happening. Let's call it. We'll try again tomorrow. And that's the other thing. Like, if she's not napping, I'm not getting that opportunity to play. So I'm either staying up real late, and sometimes I know it's not good for me because I got to come back the next day, and really come back stronger. Or sometimes it is, you know what, I'm gonna stay up late. I'm gonna be tired. I'm gonna finish that game that I've been dying to finish for a while.
Drink an extra cup of coffee.
Yeah, exactly. It's having that coffee, and I know they're terrible for you, but I still do enjoy an energy drink here from time to time.
Yep.
Or it's having that having a nice beverage like a beer, or you name it.
In my opinion, it's tough to drink a beer at night. Like, I'm drinking one now, and I'll probably have a second one because if I have just one, I get sleepy, and it's like I have one, I'm like, oh man, I could take a nap. So, and it's 11 o'clock at night, which is kind of weird to say I could take a nap, but yeah, it's a lot of fun to get the gaming in. And I think, in my opinion, you find a new appreciation in games. We were talking about Heavy Rain, I think, briefly, but it was a game for was it PS3 it was out for, or was it PS4?
It was PS3, but they did do a re-release as well.
Okay. So phenomenal game, and I played it not as a dad. And thinking back of how I would look at that game now. So people that don't know, that game is essentially about being a dad and your daughter. I think it was his daughter. Was it his daughter or son?
His son. He had two sons, actually. And this isn't spoilery, but
Yeah.
In the first minutes of the game, his one son, there's an accident, he passes away, and they're both young, and he has his other son, and things go down, and he basically gets kidnapped, and the game is a mystery from there on out. Yeah, Tim, you're right. Like I did not play that as a dad either, but it's all a game all about choices, and I would guarantee that I would be playing it differently just through that different lens right
100%
now.
agree. Yep. It was a great game. It was a phenomenal game. And I looking back on it, I would love to play it again. But one of those things that's a little bit different now. So
For sure.
but
That's another one of my, actually, probably if you had to ask for my top 10 all-time games, that would be on there. That was a game that was real special. Loved getting into the mystery of it, and there's 77 different possible endings from the 4 characters that you get to play throughout. That was a game that was always fun going back to get all the trophies on, and then got to do it again for PS4. So I've always enjoyed what Quantic Dream puts out.
Another big gaming news out there for any other dads that are probably something like us. Did you ever play any Tony Hawk's games?
Oh, dude, that trailer, my goodness. So yeah, I did. I own the original on the original PlayStation, and I did not own it, but I played with my cousins and best friend Tony Hawk 3 constantly. We played on the cruise ship all the time, and we had the cheat code for Darth Maul. So as a Star Wars fan, of course, played that one truly like there was no tomorrow. How about you?
Yeah, I love Tony Hawk game. That was that, and then a big game I loved is the Guitar Hero games. Growing up, I loved those ones. But yeah, Tony Hawk's was huge. I used to go where you can make the different like skate parks, and I thought that I loved that. I would make my own skate park, and I think which one did they really introduce like the storyline to it, where you could create your own person, and it was that 3 where you could.
I don't recall. It was 3 or 4, I think.
Yeah. So, but phenomenal. I actually played a game when I was a kid. It was actually a rollerblading game too, similar to that. I forget what it's called. It's some great music, but it was like a rollerblading Tony Hawk style game. But if anyone thinks of the name of it, definitely post in the comments so I remember. But yeah, it was. I don't know what kind of games you usually play, Joe. I don't think I've ever asked you like what are your ideal games. I know I like RPGs, but I play a lot of stuff. So
man, I'm all over the place. I a little of everything is probably the best way to put it. For perspective, my true favorite all-time game is Batman Arkham City. That game, just, man, it hit everything on my list, and that became forever ingrained in what I love and truly helped my passion along for games. But big into shooters, more so the shooters like a Halo or a Call of Duty, as opposed to, I've never played Fortnite. I've never played Overwatch. It's funny to say that they're old school shooters now, but to think of like a Halo or Call of Duty, that's probably the sweet spot for me. I loved back in the day. You mentioned Guitar Hero. My goodness, I played the heck out of those because I was a drummer and just naturally got attracted to those. So that and Rock Band were always big. My wife and I actually had a really nice bonding experience when we were dating in high school when Lego Star Wars came out. For whatever reason, we decided to jump into that and played all of that co-op to 100% that together, which is crazy. So I love those family adventure games. I love, right now the biggest contrast is I just finished Doom Eternal, which is a game, about slaying demons, and it's all about heavy metal music. And when I'm done with that, I pick up Animal Crossing. So
yeah,
I'm truly all...
Hey, they had a crossover video. You see the YouTube video of the crossover?
Yes.
It's hilarious.
Absolutely amazing. Yeah, but I guess to put it as short as possible, my gaming tastes are all over the place. I do enjoy an RPG from time to time. I typically don't. I will gravitate towards shorter games. So anything that really even has a long story from a story standpoint falls down my list. But I've really enjoyed games, some of the bigger Assassin's Creeds over the years. I've played Skyrim. I've played Witcher 3. I just played actually Fallout 4 for the first time earlier this year. I went through that beginning to end.
Good game.
I'd be remiss to on shifting gears here if I didn't mention the Uncharted series. I love
Uncharted.
Huge...
I haven't played the newest one.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that one definitely worth a playthrough. It's got I want to say the single player story is about 16 hours, and most of the Uncharted came in around 8 or 9. So
Mm.
it's a nice send off to this cast of characters. And they had the Lost Legacy, which was a really nice almost spin off that added another maybe 6 or 7 hours.
Oh, nice.
So
Yeah, big fan of like those style games. Like I grew up playing Tomb Raider stuff like that. So when they came out on Chart, I was like, okay, this is right down my alley of style of games. It was up for the PlayStation at the time, so I was super happy about it.
oh man, dude, that's also right up. I love the Square Enix what we've gotten from Tomb Raider in recent years. Last of Us obviously is another
Yep.
one to check off, and that's coming out next month finally. Um, did you happen to see the PS5 tech demo that came out today?
I did not. I saw you post about it, and I was so busy today. I was like, I gotta watch that. Heard it's
Oh,
phenomenal, but I didn't get a chance to watch it yet.
it took my breath away, man. I know PC gamers in some way, shape, or form, on the high end have been there already, but for console gaming, this is truly extraordinary. We're going to talk about it on our episode of Geeks Got Games, so that's our all gaming podcast. If you enjoy this one, I think you'll enjoy that too. But that tech demo, it's 9 minutes long. It's from Epic. It's showing the new Unreal Engine. It is truly mind blowing. And the game, the reason I bring it up is it looks like it's a game ripped right out of either Uncharted or Tomb Raider. Like it's oh, sign me up right away. You got to watch that when we're done here.
Yeah, definitely check it out. Yeah, it's on my list of. I just finished. I was actually when I was driving to the New York Beer Project, I listened to the MCU and review. So I was like, oh, that's on my list too. But I haven't watched it. Obviously, I can't watch that and drive. I'll get in trouble. But
Good
yeah,
stuff.
it's one of those things where I just, I'm a big variety gamer, and I really do mean that. And I think for me, the biggest game I kind of gravitate, if I had to pick a genre that I probably like the most, it's probably Metroidvania because just the feeling of wanting to get every collectible. It kind of reminds me of the old school gaming days where you play a Crash Bandicoot and it's like, I got to get every single thing in the game. I got to do the time trials and um, you know, big fan of that. But I think maybe one of these days we should make one of our shows about games to play with the wife because I feel like that might be a good topic. I know John, he's part of I think the Buffalo gaming group that John started. He actually asked for recommendation on a good game to play with the wife, and um, I think I recommended him Overcooked 2, which is a very you learn how to work with your wife pretty much, your significant other, and
I
we
love Overcooked.
yeah, it's fun. It's stressful. It's very stressful, but that and we played. So you mentioned 100% in games. We actually played Super Mario 3D World for a long time, myself and my wife, and she didn't like understand the concept of getting 100%. And then when I kind of explained to her like, hey, there's these stars throughout the level, if we collect them, like we, complete the level. And she's like, oh, really? So we started. She played as a cat every single game, but she's always like, we have a cat person I could use. I'm like, yeah, we can get you a cat person if you really want to be a cat person. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
that's awesome,
like I said,
man.
a lot of stuff we can cover just being a dad and what you do and what you don't do and kind of how gaming works. And I think as dads, maybe we have a different taste in games than maybe some other people do. I know you mentioned shooters. I don't. Have you played the new Have you seen any gameplay for the new Valorant game that came out lately?
No, I have not, and I know you were streaming it too, and I've
Yeah,
got to get tuned into one of those. But everything I've been hearing, and especially from you, is just kind of crazy on the quality of it. But I'll let you
yeah.
talk about it.
It's a lot of fun, but it's very, very competitive. And I'm I'm very competitive with stuff in a sense that I like to try to make sure I'm doing stuff right. And growing up, it wasn't really the case because I didn't really play any competitive shooters or stuff like that. But I loved Halo. I actually had a buddy of mine in high school that I would go to his house all the time. We'd play Halo 2 and Halo 3 on his Xbox, and he was amazing at it. I was okay, but I played a lot of Fortnite for a while. It was one of my I played with. That's actually how we met. John Fick, um, good friend, is part of the Busy Sticks tank. So Mike Newton, he actually I met him through who did I meet him through? Mike Barone, who's one of my neighbor. And so long story short, that's how I meet all these people. And he actually plays Fortnite. I actually played Fortnite with him a lot, and I love Fortnite. Actually, when I got a PC, I've had a PC for a long time. I played a lot of League of Legends, And when on my PC, I started playing Fortnite on the PC, and that's when I kind of slowly moved away from the PlayStation. I will always keep my PlayStation. I have a Nintendo Switch. I will always keep a console because there's games out there. There's reasons you play it, which I will never. There's just something about firing up a PS or PlayStation game and playing on a controller and knowing that, hey, like Final Fantasy just felt great to play on the PlayStation. And that's actually long story full circle. That's how I met you essentially. But
Yeah.
he played a lot of Fortnite for a while, and Tank's really good at it. I got decent, and now, and that's the other part too, is finding the balance between when you go to play video games. Now that you maybe have friends that want to play other games with you, it's difficult. I don't know how often you play single player games or play multiplayer games, but when I go online now and I'm signing on a Discord, like for example, right now I have 3 messages of people asking to play Valorant with me. It's tough to find the mix because I'm playing Star Wars, and it's like, well, do I play Star Wars or do I go play Valorant? Or it's just so many different options now, which is so much different than it was before. So
Yeah, it's crazy. There's so many options now. Like there's never ever a shortage, and there's always a backlog. And we talked about it on Geeks Got Game, and we kind of made it a segment like, what's in your backlog here as we get towards the end of the Xbox One, PS4 generation. For me, in terms of competitive gameplay or playing online, it is very few and far between for me nowadays. Single player is the vast majority of my time. I will say I found it difficult to play more challenging games. And the reason being, I can't get into a groove sometimes because of timing and not playing it consistently.
2 hours is different than someone else's 10.
Yeah, and it's totally different. So like playing even Doom Eternal, by the way, which amazing shooter, a relatively hard game. We're not talking about Dark Souls here, but this, in terms of shooters, is a pretty hard game. So playing through that and not playing it maybe in a week's time because I only can play maybe a few hours here or there, and in those few hours I want to play one of the 3 or 4 games that I'm trying to work my way through, was very difficult. It was like a learning curve all over again, where, I played Doom, the original, in 2016, and I was able to shoot right through that, no problem, no pun intended. But now, it took me almost a month and a half to beat this, and it is not a long game. 15 hours or maybe closer to 20 for a shooter, which is pretty darn good for what you'd see in a shooter like that. But it was always reinventing myself and being like, oh my gosh, I forgot I had this weapon. I forgot I had unlocked this move. That was the difficult part for me in going through that series. And it was mostly due to my kind of disruption of my schedule. So I find, games like that kind of tough. And the games where I can go through them more easily, I find a little bit more relaxing. It may be needless to say, but now more than ever, I think.
Can you hear me, Joe?
Yep, here I come.
Oh, we got video again.
Yeah, I all of a sudden I was gone. It was the Thanos snap. There it was.
Yeah, hey, it fixed whatever was going on.
All right, I can always cut this.
I think I put my clothes back on. Dad jokes.
Dad joke. Honestly, this was the role I was born to play, let me tell you. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. Bear with me 1 second.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I didn't have video for like the last 20 minutes,
Doesn't
but
matter.
the audio was all good. So, yeah, sorry about the tech issues at home, everybody. It's a work in progress here. It's like, if you will, a dad is trying to figure out how to record this. So,
Yeah. Well, maybe one of these days we'll be able to have it once the quarantine's over. We can have a beer or some coffee together and do it in person. So it'll be
yes,
a little different. So
I would, Tim and I'll obviously have to talk here. I think that is a wonderful idea. I plan on having a beer with you either way, but recording in person would be a really nice thing, I think.
Yeah.
So I don't know where we cut off there.
Yeah, what were we talking about?
I was talking about Doom Eternal and how I found it difficult to get in a groove.
Yep.
And then I know you were talking, and then all of a sudden Discord was like, no, you're not going to talk anymore.
Yeah, I
So-
honestly don't remember.
It's all good.
It's the dad brain. So,
yeah,
no,
it's such
pretty
a balance in everything, and I think that's kind of the epitome of the first episode here is, it's ultra rewarding, obviously, to be a dad, but to be a gaming dad is a challenge, and as a gamer, as lifelong gamers here, overcoming that challenge is just one more notch, really, in the belt here, right?
It was tough. It was tough to kind of find the ways to adjust because, like we were talking about, it's not like you can just game whatever you want. If you have an extra hour or two between something, it's, you can't just go. My son's up here running around playing. It's not like I can just go right downstairs and go play a game. It's like, well, you have to, be part of everything and play with your son. And, I think one topic maybe we can cover one day is what age we think the appropriate age to introduce video games is to your children. And that's, I don't know yet because, my son's played ABC Mouse on the iPad is the extent of gaming. So if you call that gaming, it's all educational stuff. But
Sure,
I think that'll be a topic for one of these days is, hey, what age is the right age and what do you do? What do you introduce? So, it's
it's a good question. I think
Yeah.
we'll have to probably cross
I don't know
that
if I
when
know
we
the
get
answer.
there.
So
Yeah.
But,
It's funny. One of the first toys I bought, Daisy, was a fake. It looks like an Xbox control. It's I don't know if it's not Fisher Price, but a company like Fisher Price makes it. Anyway, you can hit different buttons, and it's very geared towards gamers. It'll have, these different sounds that will play that are kind of educational, and they'll talk about ABCs and numbers and things like that. But she's always loved playing it and picking it up and playing with the different buttons. And from time to time, if I'm able to play while she's awake, which is super, super rare, and of course it's got to be a child appropriate game, I'll give her control and she'll sit on my lap for a solid 2 or 3 minutes and play.
Yeah.
But with my wife being heavily into Animal Crossing, she has really developed a big interest in holding our Nintendo Switch, which is always a quick no. We're gonna put that on the charging port. We're not gonna do that. So
that's the beauty of games on the Switch. So we talk a lot about. I think John does. He's waiting for a Persona 5 on the Switch. I would love a Persona 5 on the Switch because it's one of those games. Like I played Fire Emblem. Is it 4 House or 5 House, whatever it is? I can play
3
that
houses.
On 3 houses, whatever
Yep,
the number of houses is. But I can play that on Switch while my son's awake. Because I can still do things. I can still be involved, and I'm not taking the TV over or completely distracted. You can pause it, set it down. I played Link's Awakening. I love I'm a big Legend of Zelda guy, and played Link's Awakening on the Switch. And it's nice to have the convenience of the flexibility of turning it off or turning it on, or we go to the mother-in-law's and pop it on and play 30 minutes of worth of it. Being able to have the flexibility to play it more, where with a PlayStation or an Xbox or even PC is almost impossible to do with a child.
Oh yeah.
So it's just different. So
yeah,
but
I couldn't agree more. I think that's finding a game like that to play while you can really just have one eye on it is nice. Which is Animal Crossing has been the thing. Obviously, it's taken the world by storm, but it has been the game where I can kind of follow her around and obviously I want to devote time to her and actually play with her and read to her. But in those moments where I normally couldn't sit and maybe play an Xbox game while she's playing in her room, I can now kind of follow her with the Switch in hand, or even have the control and the Pro Controller and play from a distance on our big screen TV. And of course it's super child appropriate on top of it. So That has been the ideal game on so many levels for so many people, I'm sure. But to come out in this quarantine that we're in the midst of. So that has been a really nice one. Link's Awakening is a game that I've got on my list that I would love to get around to. Having actually not the only Zelda game I've ever played is Breath of the Wild. Jeff Pavlok of Geeks Got Game is a huge Zelda fan, and so he was excited when I played that. But Link's Awakening is something I'm going to have to borrow from him at some point and really take my time with.
I think I still have it. So
very nice.
On the table too. So
good stuff.
But yeah, Link's Awakening is a good one, and I think so. You kind of have the progression. I'm sure Jeff, you said it was right.
Yep.
That's a big. So I'm sure he'll kind of agree. You have kind of a progression of Zelda, where the beginning Zelda's more of the, top down, more dungeon aspect, where you kind of got into um, Ocarina of Time, a lot of those ones where the game kind of transformed. And then it transformed even more with Breath of the Wild. So you going back to play Link's Awakening kind of takes you back to that Super Nintendo. When my wife and I went on our honeymoon, on the trip down there, I actually bought a Nintendo DS just to play a Legend of Zelda game. What was the game? It was A Link Between Worlds, I think it was, which is like a remake of one of my favorite games for the Game Boy Advance. So,
That's awesome.
big. Like I said, I'm a jack of all trades when it comes to video games. You probably mentioned when I've played a similar game, or I might even have played it. So,
it's funny you mentioned the honeymoon. On our plane to our destination, so I have a PlayStation Vita. I love the Vita. I always wish it had more support. I feel like the Switch came at the right time, and the Vita just missed the boat. It just missed. But anyway, I played Batman Arkham Origins. There was I don't recall the title off the top of my head, but there was a spin-off of Arkham Origins that was made for the Vita. And that's what I played on the way down. I specifically bought it for that trip. And it's funny, a lot of times in life I'll look at a game and be like, hey, I know what was going on when I was playing that game. Maybe it was, like we said, we're on the way to our destination, or maybe something else was going on, or maybe it was a particularly difficult time in your life. But gaming has that kind of way, especially if you get into it and you have a fond memory of that game, of just transcending life and creating some nice memories, and gives you pause to think about not just the game, but even playing through it again and recalling those memories. So I think it's such a unique medium in that sense.
Good way to bring people together too. I mean, you think about Geeks Got Game or Geeks Got Game. What you guys are doing there, talking about a lot of gaming and just the Geekiverse in general. It's really a collection of people that share similar interests that like talking about it. And I kind of explained to my wife when I call it downstairs because everything's in the basement. It's not finished yet, so it's like a dungeon almost. But when I go in the basement at night to go play video games, and I tell her, it's different than a lot of other people because, yeah, maybe I'll play a single player game here or there, but a lot of times I'm in Discord with my friends or I'm streaming on Twitch. It's, almost like a social time. It's, especially in a quarantine, it's nice to be able to kind of talk to my friends that have similar interests that I do. I have a lot of friends that live in New York City, like the outskirts. They'll kill me if I say New York City because it's not technically New York City, that I've never met before, share similar interests. We'll pop on a Discord call with video. We'll chat. We'll watch movies. Like, it's just one of those things. It's nice to have. They're actually huge Star Wars fans. So, that sometimes they'll get in debates about certain things. And I love Star Wars, but not to the extent that you and a lot of other people I know do. So I still have yet to watch the new ones. One of these nights I'm going to do it. So.
Okay. All right.
I know.
All right.
I know.
You let me know.
Yeah, it's I wanted to see it in theaters and I didn't have anyone to go with, so I was like,
if only you knew me. That I
know.
So I saw I don't this is not embarrassing. I own it. I love it. I saw Rise of Skywalker 4 times in theaters. I saw it. There's people who definitely saw it more. I know somebody who saw Phantom Menace 8 times in theaters. So everybody get off my back.
Rashawn said I did watch it and I listened. Rashawn said he knew someone who saw it 12, right? I think
he did, and I that's mind blowing to me. But hey, to each their own. But Rise of Skywalker, so every new Star Wars that came out in the last 5 years, it was basically, it's an event, and for the Geekiverse, a huge event. It was, we get tickets for opening night. We buy 3 months in advance when they go on sale. I would always immediately buy tickets to the next day because I knew I would want to go see it again and really just get it ingrained in my head because that's how I am. Here's my mug if you're watching the video version. And then on top of it, I know I'm going to go back probably a third time, maybe a few weeks later. So for Rise of Skywalker, we had opening night. We had the night after. The week of the movie, a friend, someone from the Geekiverse who shall remain nameless, had a contact that I was able to go see the movie before it hit, basically at a private theater. And it was one of the greatest experiences of my life. I could talk about it all night. But I had to keep that lie maintained until we went to the theater, saw it, and then I told the whole crew afterwards, which was just, I'll never forget it. But so that was 3 times, and the movie had been out technically 2 days. And then on the opening night, my wife could not go with us. I don't recall what happened. She could not go. So she's like, well, I got to go see it. I have to. I'm like, okay. So I went a 4th time the following week, and it actually ended up being her favorite of all the Star Wars films for what it's worth, because I've dragged her on this crazy journey that is my fandom.
I tried to get my wife to watch Star Wars. She watched 2 minutes, and I was like, not for me. I was like, it's fine. Like, it was actually
yeah, more for me. That's okay.
Yeah, it was the first of the newer trilogy, and I was like, oh, let's really watch it, because at the time for the longest time, I watched all like the originals and I loved them, but it's been so long since I watched them, so I was like, you know what? Before I watch the new movie, I need to watch all of them again, because I don't remember everything well enough to be able to, like, that's why I haven't watched any of the newer MCU movies. I forget what's the last one. I love Guardians of the Galaxy, huge fan of Guardians of the Galaxy, but I haven't watched any of the newer MCU movies because I have that problem. It's just, I don't know what it is. It's like, I don't want to watch the new one until I watch the old ones. And it's like, well, where's the time to watch the old ones? So
Yeah.
it's a cycle.
It's a vicious cycle.
So with Star Wars, I finally said, you know what? I don't need to see the old ones. I'm just going to watch the new one because I really want to watch it.
Yeah.
And I'm like, told my wife, like, you don't really need to see the old ones. Like, just get into this, and maybe I'll try to take her back. And
that's all right. It happens. It's
Movie,
okay.
I think the last it's not really a superhero movie, but the last superhero-ish movie I saw in theaters was actually the newer Joker.
Yeah.
So, which I thought was amazing. So
it was phenomenal. Absolutely awesome. I had no idea what to expect.
Movies that make you thinking. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but that was like the first one I saw on midnight release, and my wife can worry sometimes. She's like, there's a lot of, because at the time everyone was about the shootings and stuff like that. So she's like, be careful, and I'm telling her, like, there's security guards, like, don't worry, like, everything's be okay. And great movie. We actually went to Jack Astor's, I think, with my buddies before we saw it. So
nice.
But
that's
movie.
A good time.
But yeah, so I think the only other thing we wanted to talk about too was games we were thinking kind of on the radar for next month. Anything that we're thinking of playing that maybe want to recommend to someone else. So, or what we're currently playing too, I think would be a good topic too.
I think so. So, again, another plug for Geek Scott Game. It's our all gaming podcast at the Geekiverse. We have it in video form on YouTube and wherever you listen to podcasts. But we talk about what we're playing. We call it What's in Our System. I think it's perfect for this as well. What are we playing, whether it's just on our own time after our kids go to bed, if, while they're awake, you name it. In celebration of, talking about Star Wars, May the 4th, we always celebrate that at the Geekiverse. We kind of made it a month-long thing here. So I've been playing through quite a bit of Star Wars recently. I actually popped in the original Star Wars Battlefront 2 from 2005 as a backwards compatible title on my Xbox One. So I breezed through that story. That was a blast. As I mentioned, I dove back into Jedi Fallen Order. I can't believe how good the lightsaber mechanics are in that game. That's
one for the PC, right?
Oh, what's that?
Oh, not Fallen Order. I'm thinking of a different. Never continue.
Gotcha.
I've got a question for you, done.
Yeah, so I've been picking that up again, and I adore that title. Respawn Entertainment did an absolutely masterful job there. And then I actually went through the 2017 version of Star Wars Battlefront 2. So all Star Wars all the time right now for me. But that story you can play through in like 4 hours. It's just nice fanfare, nothing really challenging about it. But I went back and 100% at all the side collectibles that you can get in the mission. So I'm happy to do that. Plus, they also just released the final update for Star Wars Battlefront 2. So that includes some of the appearances that you see for Rey and Kylo Ren and the Emperor in Rise of Skywalker, as well as Scarif, which you see in Rogue One. So I've been enjoying that. And quick tangent, we talked about staying up late and what our hours look like. 2 weekends ago, usually there's at least 1 or 2 nights on a given weekend where I'll say, all right, I'm drinking the coffee late. I am staying up all night. This is how it's happening. I stayed up till 5.
Oh, man, that's impressive.
I never did that before. It's just kind of, usually mentally like 3 is my cutoff. 3 o'clock, I'm like, all right, I probably should settle down now. But I kept going. I was the energy just kept flowing, and I'm like, oh my gosh, tomorrow's going to be so awful. So 5 o'clock was when I finally went to bed. It was getting light out. My goodness gracious. Anyway, I played Star Wars Battlefront 2 all night with some of the new game modes with that.
Yeah, your alarm clock now has no snooze. So
yeah, it was brutal. Thankfully, Daisy slept till 7:30.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So, quick question here: do you ever play? I was thinking of Knights of the Old Republic.
Yes.
You ever play that?
Another nice tie-in. So I own it for the original Xbox. I played it, but never got super far in it. It's a game where I've always secretly hoped for a remaster, and that's when I was going to give myself the excuse to play it. I'm going to have to play through it again because I don't know how I can really, truly call myself a Star Wars nut without having played what is perceived as the greatest Star Wars game of all time.
It's like the MMO one, right?
Yes.
My buddies have been bugging me to play it. They saw me playing Fallen Order on stream. Like, oh, Tim, would you ever play Knights of the Old Republic? I'm like, I've seen it. So
Knights of the Old Republic was the original Xbox game, and then BioWare made that, and then they made in 2011 the Old Republic. It's called.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of. That one.
So that is the MMORPG.
Yep.
I did play that one as well. On that one, again, I've always secretly hoped that they would bring that to Xbox One and PS4, and I'm kind of surprised they haven't. But they are still supporting that game all these years later. But again, if they ever release it for Xbox One, I'll be in trouble because it's the only thing I'll probably play.
Imagine if they release like an MMO nowadays for like Star Wars. Be crazy.
Especially in this day and age, it would be so welcomed. That's so. The quick tie-in, what I mentioned for Knights of the Old Republic, so the original Xbox game is you mentioned playing Final Fantasy on your iPad or your tablet. That's what I was playing on the way to. We were fortunate enough to go to E3 2 years ago, and that's what I played on the plane on my iPad. The Knights of the Old Republic. Now it was very buggy, unfortunately, but it was kind of nice. It's amazing to see even where mobile gaming has gone these days.
Yeah.
Tim, what have you been playing? A little of everything. Different genres.
Just finished Final Fantasy VII Remake, which was probably the longest game I've played in who knows how long. Like you said, long games are tougher.
Yeah.
It's tough to keep your attention sometimes because you kind of go off and go back and go off, and it's tough to kind of just sit down and get that long grind session of 8 to 10 hours like you used to be able to. And Rashawn Platinum King grinded that out in 3 days. I was like, not happening. So I've been playing a lot of Valorant as of lately. It's been my new shooter. I play a lot of my buddies, and then I've been playing Star Wars Fallen Order. I don't know why I waited so long to play it. I'm a huge fan of the Dark Souls style games, and when I play it, the combat just feels so Dark Souls like. It's very punishing, which I love. I love the puzzle, like the Metroidvania style puzzles. I love the combat. The lightsabers it just feels right. I mean, it just feels so smooth. I got a new PC I just built, and I'm playing it on ultra settings. It's amazing, and it's like
I can't imagine.
This is it. So I've been really loving that. But that, and then I've also actually just started diving in. My buddy convinced me to re-download Final Fantasy 14, the MMO one, to start playing that again. So I've been dabbling in that when I have the time. But my main goal is to finish Star Wars, and then actually, we talked about games that are on the horizon. I really, really want it. The 2 games that are on my list pretty shortly here, because I think, when does Tsushima come out?
Yes, July 17th.
So that's a month. So I got the next month free, basically. Because The Last of Us comes out in July too, right?
Last of Us is June 29th. So you got a few
so
weeks.
End of the month. So I'll be able to boom if I play it right. So I want essentially my games for next month. I want to try to finish Fallen Order by the end of the month is the goal, and then next month I would like to dive into Hollow Knight, which I've heard a lot of recommendations on. I actually played like 2 minutes of it because I bought it when it was on sale for like $7. Someone posted in the Buffalo Game Geeks group that it was on sale, so I picked it up then. And then also I want to play through the second Ori. Actually, when I got the first Ori, I was playing that. I actually had it on my laptop in the kitchen, and I was playing it while I was upstairs. I was kind of playing that a little bit, and again, not extremely demanding. I can pause it and leave and come back. And like you said, my time on there was astronomical because I kept pausing the game to go do something or play with Oliver or whatever. So, but But yeah, a lot of good stuff on the horizon. And are there any games that are coming out next month that people should be like looking out for? Or
I'm in the same
any
boat
that you've
as
been?
you, actually. And I did play through Ori and the Will of the Wisps. Very challenging game. Beautiful game.
Mm-hmm.
Atmospheric. You can pause it, like you said. Unfortunately, I left mine on for over 24 hours, so it's
Yeah.
it said I took quite a long time to beat that game. So don't look at my Xbox list there. But Hollow Knight, I do want to get into. I don't know if that's going to happen very soon, unfortunately, but it's a part of Game Pass Ultimate, which I have, so
Mm.
that's free essentially. Um, and then I want to beat. We talked about Rashawn. He's streaming on the Geekiverse,
Yep.
Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I did start that in February before Doom and Animal Crossing came out, and I'd like to get back to it and finish it before Last of Us. That's kind of my time frame. And then I want to finish Last of Us before Ghost, because that game looks so beautiful, and I just can't wait till both of them come out. My goodness gracious. Um, I would say those are the two on the horizon that really everybody needs to know about. If you are a Star Wars fan, any day now you'll be able to get the ported Episode 1 Racer on Nintendo Switch and PS4. So that'll be kind of a nice nostalgia trip, I guess. Tim, I did want to ask you though. So I've never played a Dark Souls game. I played Bloodborne for like an hour before I was like, I do not have the patience for this. I'm not good
Mhm.
enough for this. Where with Jedi Fallen Order, how does that combat stack up in terms of challenge to a game like a Bloodborne or Dark Souls, or maybe even to a degree a Sekiro?
Yeah. So I was telling all my buddies this. I played Fallen Order on like the one right below the hardest, and I regret not playing it on the hardest difficulty. It's very so Fallen Order is very very punishing, but the biggest thing with any Dark Souls games or stuff like that, like Bloodborne, is learning attack patterns. So once you learn an attack pattern, you can kind of predict, hey, you know what, I can avoid this by backstepping, or I can roll to the right or roll to the left. And that was why Dark Souls was so much fun to me. Is there's a lot of strategy in the combat. You can't just hack and slash your way, and that's what I really love about Fallen Order. It's very punishing on the difficulty I'm playing on. I wouldn't say it's Dark Souls level. Dark Souls
Mm-hmm.
is very, very difficult to start. I feel like with Fallen Order, I'm on the third world right now, or the fourth world, and I feel like as you progress through the game, you get new abilities. It slowly becomes a little bit. You have more tools at your disposal, so more things to do.
Oh yeah.
And with Souls, the abilities you get at the beginning are pretty much the abilities you have throughout the game. You upgrade your gear, but the enemies get harder. It gets more difficult. And I would say Fallen Order is pretty tough as far as on the scale of what I'm playing on right now as far as difficulty, but I don't think it's by any means as difficult as Dark Souls would be. I mean, Dark Souls is just a different breed. I mean, there's times I played Dark Souls and I just had to walk away because I would get so frustrated where you die against something and you're trying to get back there and every enemy is difficult. So let's say I get really far. I'm not near the bonfires, they call them, which is almost like Fallen Order where they respawn the enemies.
Mm-hmm.
Let's say I'm at the final boss and I die and I didn't hit a bonfire on the way. I have to beat all those ridiculously hard enemies to get back to that one boss. And if I die on the way there, I lose all my stuff. So it's very, very demanding. And there's been times where I'm like, I was killing everything. I had so much extra stuff. And then I die and it's like on the way there and I'm like just so annoyed with the game because I got to essentially do it all over again. Like I got no progress. Like I just wasted an hour of my time. But, you know, compared to the
Yeah.
two, it's on that level, but not quite as hard as Dark Souls would be. So,
That's what I take away from everything I've heard. But to even have it in the conversation is kind of crazy to me.
yeah,
Yeah,
definitely the same gameplay
those games
style.
are not for me. And it's rare for me to say that, but I just can't. I get so frustrated and I get so mad, and so if I ever encounter like a tough boss or a tough level and I'm kind of struggling to get around it and maybe I've spent too much time on it, I have this problem where like I can't rest until I beat it. So
That's how I am.
I've got to beat it, and once I do, good, save. Let's get this thing off, and I'll go to bed or do whatever else that I'm gonna do. But like I really struggle with letting that go.
That's how I am. It's one of those things where you need to beat it. It's like I know I can do it, and I'm gonna do it. I just don't know how long it's gonna take me. And I was one of those kids as a child. They have those little like puzzles that go together. You have to like try to get them apart. I could play with those things for hours because I need to get it apart. I need to find a way. And That's how I am with video games. Sometimes I get a little stubborn, don't want to lose, and it's like I'm gonna do this before. And then if I really can't get to it, I really get frustrated, and I probably won't come back to the game. So it's tough.
Yeah,
But
I totally hear you there. It's just it's another thing too. Like honestly, if I ever get to the point where I do put the game down and walk away, a lot of times I will come back and beat it on the first or second attempt.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make sense. Like why?
Yep.
Why couldn't I do this after 20 attempts last time? It's funny how things work. Sometimes you need to take a step back, and I guess that's a good maybe almost segue to wrapping up the episode here. That's patience too with being a dad, right? Like sometimes it doesn't work. Sometimes you just gotta take that breath and take that step back and know that something else is gonna work, or things are gonna come around. So
everything kind of fits into place. That's the biggest thing I've kind of realized being his dad is that not to stress the little things, and everything kind of works in its own way. So.
That's right. Patience is definitely, as they say, a virtue.
Your kids don't understand that, but
they don't, which means you got to double understand in a way. So we'll wrap up this inaugural episode of DadCast. If you're watching the video version, we're so sorry for some of the technical difficulties we had, but the audio worked throughout the whole time, so we're appreciative of that. We're appreciative of you taking the time to watch and or listen to this. Tim, where can people find you on social media? You've been all over the place on the Geekiverse and streaming these days. So if people want to check out more in the world of your video games, where can they follow you?
Yeah, check me out on Twitch. Tim Tales on everything, pretty much TIMTALS. Twitter, pretty simple. So usually I'm on there tweeting about the Geekiverse or friends that I have that are playing video games. Or I'm a big sports guy. I don't know if you saw my shirt or not, but it says you dig because we just got big Buffalo Bills fans. So, Sabres fans. So I like sports, I like video games, and I like working in family. So that's pretty much what you'll see from me. So, but yeah.
Gotta love it. Where'd you get that shirt, if you don't mind me asking?
I actually don't know. I went out, got my mail the one day, and my mother-in-law actually bought it for me. I'll have to ask her. I'm not even sure where she got it from. I know she bought it as soon as we got them, because Josh Allen tweeted out, "You dig," after we got. Yeah. So I honestly have no idea.
I'm not 100% certain, so this may be a false plug, but our partners, our sponsor for MCU Review is Fantastic. Fantastic is a division of 26 Shirts, basically the founders of the quote-unquote Bills Mafia. So they very well may have produced that.
It is.
It is?
Yeah. Yep.
Awesome. All right. I know. Chances. I was like 99% sure, but I didn't know.
Sure.
That's so great. So the guy who made that shirt, essentially, Del Reed, sits in on our MCU review show. One of the finest human beings you'll ever meet. 26 Shirts.
Too, right?
What's that?
He's a dad too, right?
He is.
Maybe one day we get him a guest appearance or something on here.
I think that's a really good idea. Yeah, we've. It's funny, like, so Del's been Twitter famous, if you will. If not, I mean, he's in Western New York. You know who Del Reed is. Yeah. But he's been the guy for a long time. And I had been a fan of him and everything that he does with 26 Shirts and Bills Mafia. And we met him at Buffalo Soup Fest. Geekiverse was sponsoring the kids section, and he had a table there. Someone walked me over to meet him, and he said he was a big fan of our Star Wars coverage. Blew my mind, and I was like, that's the greatest compliment I could ever have, and hoping to just meet and say hi to Del, that he's listened to our stuff before. So we got to know each other over the coming months, and this is 2017. We became partners. Fantastic has sponsored the Geekiverse ever since, and the rest is history. Now he's doing podcasts and shows with us, and it's super exciting. Small world is right. Yeah. But you can find me on social media at Josiah D. LeRoy. Very similar interests to my friend Tim here, whether it comes to the Buffalo Sabres or video games. Obviously, a lot of Star Wars talk for me. So if you're into that, we'd love to have you there. For the Geekiverse, we reached a nice anniversary. It's our 6th anniversary this month. Check out our thank you video. It is a heartfelt thank you from our entire staff. We could not appreciate you listening, commenting, telling your friends about us, just saying hi. All of it goes so far for us, and we really appreciate you taking the time to take part in what we are so passionate about. And we're celebrating our birthday all month long with discounts in our store, live streams, special episodes. We're celebrating Star Wars Day all month long, so it's been a really fun first half of the month here, and we can't wait to get to these last few weeks here. If you enjoy video games, which I assume you do if you're watching this episode, check out Geeks Got Game. We record bi-weekly, so there's a new episode every 2 weeks. You can listen to it on all podcast formats, or most of them, I should say, as well as youtube.com/the Geekiverse. We talk about all the latest in the world of gaming, not just the dad stuff, but anything newsy. And I cannot wait. We're recording tomorrow. We're going to talk about that PS5 tech demo. It is one of my favorite things that has come out of the world of gaming so far in 2020. So there's lots going on. We'd appreciate a like, a comment, a subscribe, a follow. Anything at all goes a long way for us. So, this has been the inaugural episode of DadCast. We'll be back next month, and just in time for Father's Day, I believe, right? Father's Day?
Yeah, I think so.
I think we'll probably...
Mother's Day just recently, so happy Mother's Day to all the moms out there. And
yeah,
I think the other thing, too, I wanted to mention, too, if anyone has any questions or things they want to ask us, feel free to pop it in the comments section if you have a question for us or want our feedback on something. Be happy to answer it on the next episode too. So got almost a month now to plan for it. So
absolutely, we'd love to hear from you. As always, the Geekiverse is all because of community. So you're a part of that with us, and we couldn't appreciate the feedback anymore. For Tim, I'm Josiah. We will see you guys next month. Have a wonderful night.
See you guys.
You got it all figured out at 21, so suck down yet another cigarette. That'll never kill you, you are the chosen one.